War elephants! You don't give a damn about war elephants, and you shouldn't give a damn about war elephants. And here's why. War elephants are terrible. First, they're hard to take care of. Second, they are totally unreliable. Imagine a horse. Horses were used all the time in ancient warfare. But each horse has its own set of needs. You have to take care of it. You have to groom it. You have to feed it. Elephants are massively larger than horses. So you have to find enough food to feed it, and you also have to make sure it stays healthy in order for it to do damage. And boy, can they do damage. Yes, they are very powerful. They can trample people by the dozens when they charge. But they also end up doing this more often to your own troops rather than to your enemies. Here's the ideal situation for war elephants. War elephants are intimidating. They're huge and they make a lot of noise. The best time to use them is when they're troops that haven't seen one before. In the ancient world, you don't have television or things like that, so you're not likely to see a lot of elephants. So, imagine for a second that you are on the battlefield, you're nervous already, and you see this giant thing over there. The hell is that? Then they start running over, and then they crash into you, bam! And then you're like, ah! That's the best scenario you can have. Unfortunately, after that, you get used to elephants pretty quickly. Elephants are really easily frightened and distracted. Let me give you an example. The Romans figure out the best way to fight elephants. Scipio, the Roman general who's fighting Hannibal at Zama, he arranges his soldiers in columns, so there are big lanes between them of nothing. Hannibal charges his elephants, and Scipio's troops, they start blowing on trumpets, which actually frightens the elephants away. Some of them veer off to the side and actually crash into Hannibal's cavalry, just disordering them and making things worse. And the ones that charge in his center, they actually just go through the lanes. They pass by the Roman soldiers. They never take part in the battle after that. Hannibal loses, and the elephants don't help at all. In fact, they're a hindrance to his plans. Alexander the Great, he invades India, and he has to fight King Porus. Porus has dozens of elephants, and this is the first time Alexander's troops have fought elephants. And at first, the elephants are pretty successful. They smash through Alexander's phalanx, and they panic his troops. But pretty quickly, Alexander figures out a way to deal with them. He just tells his troops to step aside when the elephants charge. So when the elephants do charge, they charge right through the empty space, and once they slow down, the Macedonian troops just swarm all over them. Alexander is able to defeat the elephants very easily. Unfortunately, his troops didn't think the same way. When they found out there were even more war elephants further on into India, they decided to stop and convince Alexander to turn back around. The only time that elephants are useful is at the Battle of Ipsus, which is in 310 BC. By this time, Alexander the Great is dead, and his huge empire is split apart. Antigonus Monophthalmus, which is Antigonus the One-Eyed, he tries to bring the empire back together. He tries to unite it again. And the other generals don't want this, so they ally with themselves to defeat Antigonus. One of the generals who is in the alliance is Seleucus. He brings 400 war elephants to Ipsus to fight against Antigonus. He puts 100 of them in the front line. Antigonus actually, by the way, has 85 war elephants. He puts them in his front line too. And the elephants charge each other. And their tusks are going back and forth. And it's choo, choo, choo. And eventually, Antigonus, he dies in the battle, and the empire is never united again. Or ever. But, yeah. And of course, we can't talk about war elephants without talking about Hannibal. Not that Hannibal. Hannibal actually crossed the Alps in 218 BC into Italy with 37 war elephants. It was pretty impressive considering they were elephants and they were walking over the mountains. It's less impressive once you realize that he wasn't really able to use his elephants in battle, and all of them except one died. The Romans end up using war elephants too, but they use them in the best way. They bring them over to Spain and Gaul where the people had never seen elephants before, and that's where they're most effective. The last time the Romans really used them is during the civil wars between Julius Caesar and Pompey. Pompey is in Africa, he brings all of his war elephant stuff, but Julius Caesar, he's pretty smart. He knows how to deal with war elephants already. He gives his soldiers axes, and they just hack at the limbs. And that's it, Pompey loses. And after that, the Romans don't really use them anymore. That's it for elephants in the Mediterranean. They had been hunted to extinction in Egypt and in northern Africa. You couldn't really get them around the area anymore. Although in India, They continued to use war elephants way into the Middle Ages. In fact, the Mughals found a way to mount cannons on top of elephants, which is probably the best movie that's never been made. So get on that. Here's what you should do when you're confronted with a war elephant. Shoot it with arrows or javelins. Make loud noises, blow trumpets, that scares them. Just get out of the way. Unleash pigs. They don't like pigs. You can defeat a war elephant so long as you use the greatest weapon ever created. Axes. These will take down the war elephant. So kids, just say no to war elephants. One of my old professors told me this. The side with the most war elephants loses. I'm Mr. Birch, and that's why you shouldn't give a damn about war elephants.